She sank into the deep sea. Her body burned like fire. The darkness ahead devoured her. This was the edge of life. How did it come to this? Why can't you escape the pain? You said it yourself. The figure in her memory leaned down, gazing at her younger self. He whispered, a child similar to me, surrender your fiery emotions, and I will take away your pain. As long as you live without a heart, you will no longer feel pain. She had once believed those words. Tears slid silently down her face. So they must pay. A hand rested on her waist. The man leaned down, his voice echoing in her ear. Are you just going to watch? Take revenge. I will help you. He moved closer. Windsor Noxala, the man who caused you so much pain. A memory surfaced. Windsor Noxala announcing, I will remarry immediately. Aglaire Belmont smiled and said, I'm getting remarried. Windsor's voice rang out. Don't you want to know who it is? Aglaire continued, it's someone you know very well. Aglaire's face appeared. The man's voice sounded again. Take revenge with your own hands. Everything fell apart. 12 hours earlier, the Noxala County estate. Tilda sat opposite Windsor. He broke the silence. You received the divorce papers, didn't you? His words were like a cold blade. You treated me worse than a stranger. How does it feel to actually be strangers now? She sat quietly, not answering. Windsor leisurely smoked a cigar. He blew out a ring of smoke. Too proud to even answer now? You're arrogant. Empty shell has disgusted me from the start. Windsor's tone was sharp. That I asked it because of that damn Balania family backing you? Is that why you think so highly of yourself? Tilda finally spoke. Don't drag the Balania family into this. Do you really think I live under their protection? Do you think I married you like livestock for their sake? Windsor flicked the ash from his cigar. That's exactly what I wanted to ask you. If you knew, you should have treated me better. If only you knew how much I gave up for this marriage. Tilda turned away. It doesn't matter anymore. Just pack your things and leave quickly. It won't do you any good to clash with a new mistress. Windsor's voice sounded from behind her. You turn your head the moment I mention another woman? Even a stone would be shaken by these words. He crushed his cigar. That I'm getting remarried immediately. She's much gentler than you, and she knows how to respect a man. He continued to provoke her. That aren't you curious who she is? You'll definitely be surprised. Tilda stopped, her back to him. That's wonderful. Windsor was stunned. What? She walked towards the door. I wish you well. Windsor shot to his feet. Wish me well? Really? Is that all you have to say to me? He kicked the table over. I'll be watching you. Let's see how long you can keep that smug look on your face. Tilda Balania Belmont. Her mother was the sole heiress of the sacred Balania family, a bloodline that had produced several popes. Her father was Duke Belmont, who led the industrial development of the Magori Empire. She was once the most sacred woman in the empire, but that sanctity dragged her entire family into hell. She became the most unfortunate woman in the empire. Cursed silver hair, a soulless doll, the Balania witch who devoured her parents. These notorious names all existed for her. After my mother's death, my grandfather acted as if I didn't exist. My father also left this world early. And now, even my husband has parted ways with me. The only one I can call family is a stepmother. She seems to be seeing someone recently. Is she planning to remarry? That's not something I should be thinking about. Before I knew it, spring had arrived. Since when did it start? The blooming flowers were no longer beautiful. The scent of spring could no longer stir my heart. And since when did I start pretending not to care in the face of open insults? Pretending it didn't matter even when I was hurt. Living alone in a dazzling world, everything had turned into a monotonous black and white. It all began with that promise from long ago that a child similar to me. Surrender your fiery emotions. That was the fate of Tilda Balania Belmont. To submit to fate like this, abandoning the last vestiges of my own self. One day, a voice pulled her back to reality. Madam, are you listening? Tilda came to her senses. That man had come to my side. The guard's voice sounded from outside the carriage. I think we have to go back. The commotion ahead has blocked the road. What commotion? She looked out the window. A man was roaring in the street. You bitch, trying to run away? Your husband is still alive and watching. Whispers came from the crowd. Isn't that Viscount Douglas? He's famous for treating his wife like an animal. He's gone mad again. Why are all men the same? She took off her ring and handed it to a guard beside her. Can you help me stop that man? Take this as payment. The guard took it. Yes, madam. Viscount Douglas was still shouting. Speak to me properly. The guard stepped forward to intervene. That's enough, my lord. Many people are watching. The Viscount looked at him contemptuously. What is this? What's a lowly knight like you? Get lost. He shoved the guard away. The guard staggered but stood his ground. Do not insult a knight. You will regret it. The Viscount sneered. Regret? You're the one who should be punished for insulting a nobleman. Tilda watched all this quietly. I just had a foolish expectation. I'll handle it myself. A man next to her said, It's noisy on the street. Did you do this? She turned to look at the man. That man, Tilda recognized him. He walked up to the Viscount, blocking his path. His voice was calm and powerful. "Speak." "Viscount Douglas, is it you who is being so rude?" Viscount Douglas's face turned pale. He stammered out a name, Colles. "The High Priest." "Colles." Gasps rippled through the crowd. "Lord Colles is the High Priest Colles." Viscount Douglas's voice trembled. "High Priest?" The Viscount forced a smile, trying to explain that I was just bringing back my runaway wife. He roughly grabbed his wife's hair, yet his mouth spoke words of false pity. "I married her out of pity, but she's ungrateful and keeps running away. But you understand, don't you? As a husband, I am just fulfilling my duty. Perhaps I got a little too emotional." Colles' voice was cold. "Fulfilling your duty? Then I, too, must fulfill my duty as the High Priest." His hand rested on the hilt of his sword. "Every time I return from sacrificing and slaying sea beasts for the peace of this country." His sharp gaze fixed on the Viscount. "What I see are people like you, beating your wife and disturbing the social order. What should I do with you? Perhaps I should offer you to His Holiness the Pope as well." The Viscount felt his knees that I was wrong. "Please forgive me this once." He abandoned his wife and fled in disgrace. A young attendant asked softly, "But he is a nobleman, after all. Was such a warning too severe?" Colles replied, "In my eyes, he is more like a beast." He turned to the guard. "Why did you interfere?" The guard answered, "My mistress ordered me to help the Viscountess." Colles glanced towards the carriage. "You have a good master." "The Countess of Noxala, I presume." The guard was a little surprised. "Madam, you've come out." Tilda stepped out of the carriage. She bowed her head slightly. "Thank you, High Priest Colles, for saving this poor woman. May the goddess's sacred flame be with you." Colles cut her off. "Seeking the goddess's blessing for such a small matter is making a mountain out of molehill. Unless you, madam, say with your own lips that I am worthy, it is not so." He kissed the back of Tilda's hand. Tilda remained silent. Colles Moyne, one of the strongest wielders of sacred power in the Magori Empire. He had no background. Relying solely on his pure ability and unyielding will, he ascended to the position of High Priest. He was the most needed man in the Empire. He gazed at Tilda's hand at "Oh my, I don't see the wedding ring you usually wear. May I ask why?" However, he was known as the holy man furthest from the virtue of humility. Tilda pulled her hand back. "Such a direct question is quite rude." Colles' smile deepened. "Then let me guess." His blunt words always cornered people. Every time those eyes looked at me, it felt as if they were trying to strip me bare. Tilda turned to the guard, her voice cold. "Give the ring back. You failed to carry out my order, so you don't deserve it." The guard handed the ring back to her. "This man always unnerves me." Tilda knelt before Lady Douglas and placed the ring in her hand. "Take it. Sell it, Lady Douglas. You can live well on your own." Lady Douglas was stunned. "What, for me?" Colles turned to leave. "You seem busy. I shall take my leave first. I look forward to seeing you again." She said softly to Lady Douglas, "Please accept it. May the goddess's sacred flame be with you." Lady Douglas thanked her with tears in her eyes. Belmont Ducal Estate. Tilda sat alone. One exhausting day, meeting the people I least wanted to see, one after another. Windsor's words echoed in my ears that "Let's see how long you can keep that arrogant look on your face." She looked at her own bare finger. "Ah, the wedding ring is already off. You've worked hard today." Whispers came from outside the door. A maid asked, "Did Lady Tilda really get a divorce?" Another replied, "You saw it yourself. She came in with only one bag." Her voice was filled with pity. How pitiful. Such a noble bloodline. And in the end, she's kicked out with just one bag. The maids continued to gossip. Pitiful? She has nothing to worry about for food or clothing. Besides, wasn't Lady Tilda also at fault? Are you talking about the rumor that she devoured her own mother? That's right. Isn't that why the goddess punished her? Compared to her, our new mistress is a saint. After the former duchess passed away, the duke lost his way. It was she who saved him and brought prosperity back to the duchy. If it weren't for Lady Aglaire, the Belmont family would have turned to ashes long ago. Just then, a voice called out, "Lady Aglaire, you've returned." Aglaire stepped out of the carriage. "You're back, Tilda." She offered a cup of tea. "You didn't bring much with you. Did you leave in a hurry? Shall I send someone to fetch the rest?" Tilda replied, "This is all I have." Aglaire looked at her. "You poor child. Your heart must be heavy. No matter where you go, if life becomes difficult, come to me. It's just the two of us left as family now. Drink it while it's hot. You'll feel better." Yes, my stepmother, Aglaire Belmont, only 5 years older than me, yet she always treats me like a child who needs comforting. Tilda took a sip of tea. No matter where you go. Does that mean she never thought of letting me stay? Her words are gentle, yet they always draw an invisible line. This inscrutable woman. Tilda spoke up. "The servants seem to listen to you well, stepmother. I sat here empty-handed for so long, but as soon as you arrived, I was treated with such warmth. Aguilera smiled. My dear, the servants didn't neglect you. This is the house where you were born and raised. They would welcome you without needing to be told. Tilda shook her head. I'm fine. I'm not the mistress of this estate anyway. Aguilera's expression was complex. Oh, you really understand? Since father's accidental death 2 years ago, this house has been my support, a place of our shared memories. I don't know if I deserve all this, but I strive every day to be a better mistress. Tilda looked at her. You deserve it. According to the laws of inheritance, all of this should have been passed down to you. Tilda continued, I was already married at the time, so it was only natural for you to inherit the title and property. Besides, you saved my father's life. That day, you jumped into the sea of fire, and father lived a while longer. Even with severe burns and melted skin, you cared for him with all your heart. Aguilera looked at her own fingers. Yes, because of that, my fingernails can no longer grow. But I never regret that scar. To me, it is a badge of honor. She stood up. Oh, I deserve everything I have, don't I, Tilda? I am your father's savior, and yours as well. You will understand whatever I do. Tilda rubbed her eyes. Why are my eyes so itchy? Aguilera's face suddenly drew close. But did you know? I was the one who killed your father. Tilda couldn't believe it. What did you say? Aguilera's voice was mocking. What can be done now that it's come to this? You didn't want to grow old with an old man like that either, did you? She smiled and announced, so I'm getting remarried. To someone younger, more handsome, and capable of satisfying me. Aguilera's voice echoed eerily. Someone you know very well. You know him, don't you? Windsor Noxala. The teacup slipped from Tilda's hand, shattering on the floor. Aguilera uttered the last words. Your husband. Tilda's consciousness sank into darkness. By a moonlit lake, Tilda struggled to wake up. She pushed herself up. Where am I? What did you do to me, Aguilera? Aguilera stood in the moonlight. She said calmly, calm down, Tilda. Try to assess the situation. You're a smart girl. You'll figure it out soon enough. My eyes. I can't see anything. Why? Aguilera didn't even have time to do anything. Could it be the tea I drank earlier was poisoned? Aguilera crouched down. You haven't changed a bit. Still swallowing everything without a second thought. You lost something precious because of your carelessness. You never changed either. Tilda asked, what are you talking about? Aguilera chuckled softly. Don't you remember? Tilda, when you were little, you ended your mother's life with your own hands. That day was just like today. You happily ate the fruit I gave you, not knowing it was poisonous. Like a fool. Tilda Balania Belmont, once called the most sacred woman in the Empire. But I had a fatal problem. I was born with a sacred power far exceeding any precedent, and that was the beginning of all my misfortune. Are you talking about the sacred fever? If a person is born with more sacred power than their body can handle, the body cannot endure it and falls into a high fever. Tilda would live day and night in agony, as if her whole body was on fire. It was a pain beyond imagination. Father said, is there really no cure? If I absorb Tilda's sacred power like I did today, the high fever will temporarily subside. For now, this is the best we can do. My mother, who is skilled in manipulating sacred power, would take care of me like this every night. Thanks to her, I could sleep peacefully in her arms. When morning came, I could run freely in the fields. But when I was 10, that incident happened. Hello, what a lovely child. Do you like fruit? Yes, that's wonderful. This is a very rare fruit that only ripens once every 10 years. They say once you've tasted it, no other fruit can compare. I'll give it to you as a special gift. Just because I ate that fruit, I lost my savior, my mother. They said the Duchess's sacred power went out of control. She tried to absorb the exploding sacred power and died in the process. What will happen to that poor child in the future? She devoured her mother. She's just a child. She didn't know. Being young is not an excuse for everything. Mother died because I was a fool. From that day on, people call me a witch. My devastated father drowned his sorrows in alcohol all day long. He wandered the dark streets, living like a broken man for years, until one day he nearly died in a carriage fire while drunk. And the one who rushed into the flames to save him was Aguilera. Are you all right? If what you say is true, then you used me to take my mother's life. You saved a man only to kill him with your own hands. And now, you want to take the man who was once my husband. It doesn't make sense. You have no reason to do this to me. A cruel smile appeared on Aguilera's face that I can't tell you the reason. I just wanted to leave you with a bitter aftertaste. For my sake, Aguilera, shove her off the cliff that I've said all I need to say. It's time for us to part ways. Goodbye. Tilda Balania. She fell into the cold lake water. I sank into the deep sea. This is the edge of life. Because I was foolishly ignorant, I ended up devouring myself. Wake up. A voice echoed in the water. That if you want to live, wake up. Concentrate. Who is it? Did someone come to save me? Is there really anyone left in this world who would come to save me? Footsteps approached. A man sighed and said, really, you have a talent for driving people crazy. Tilda Balania. She curled up on the bed, her body trembling in pain. It hurts. My body feels strange. What happened? He leaned over her. Where does it hurt? She pushed him away in a panic. Everywhere hurts. Who are you? Don't come near me. The man was taken aback. Wait, are you saying you can't see? Please, just leave me alone. Please. He grabbed her shoulders. Calm down. Tell me exactly what's wrong with you. Only then can I help. You're blind, aren't you? I drank poison tea. After that, I couldn't see anything. This is bad. If this goes on, you'll really die. Tilda said, my body feels like it's on fire. I feel like I'm going to die from the pain. The pain is so bad I'd rather die. He held her hand. Listen carefully. I can save you. I can even restore your lost sight. You have to cooperate with me. So do you want to live? I do. I want to live. Save me. Good. Then trust me. Endure it. It's going to hurt a little. He leaned in and kissed her. His lips pressed against hers, their breaths mingling. An unexpected kiss. Tilda's breath caught, submerged in the sudden warmth. Her hand balled into a fist and pounded against his chest. Damn bastard. But he easily caught her struggling wrist, not letting her break free in the slightest. What are you doing to me? Collies pulled back slightly, his eyes gazing at her. I'm not going to do that kind of thing. The warmth of his fingertips spread. Can you feel what I'm doing? His breath fell on her ear. That if you don't understand, then concentrate. Tilda closed her eyes. She felt a wave of weakness. What is this? His kiss landed on the side of her neck. A strange sensation spread. What he was doing to me was not what I had imagined. A warm current she had never felt before was slowly being poured in her body, carrying a strange heat, as if it was trying to push something out from within her. Is this really a treatment? In such an intimate way? She had never heard of such a humiliating therapy. The thought was cut short by sharp pain. Tilda let out a scream. The flames in the fireplace suddenly shot upwards. She pressed her forehead in agony. My head is splitting. I can't take it. Tilda struggled weakly. I'm going to die. I'm dying. You said you would save me. Were you lying? She shouted with her last bit of strength. Collies. He looked down at her, a smirk playing on his lips. You recognize me. It's an honor to be recognized without you seeing my face. Is it my voice you can't forget? There is only one man in the world with such a shameless voice. This made her current situation doubly humiliating. Of all people, it had to be the one she least wanted to be involved with. Collies lifted her into his arms. Then things are simple. You know my abilities aren't fake. There's no reason to doubt the high priest of the Empire now, is there? Tilda asked in a panic, what are you doing? He settled her in his arms. Expel all the poison from your body. This level of contact is unavoidable. I told you it would be painful, but you must trust me and endure. Her nails dug deep into the bedsheets, seeking an anchor in the tearing pain. Collies' gaze fell on her whitened fingers. Your hand will get hurt if you keep this up. If it's too painful, grab me or bite me. She gasped for breath. When will this pain end? His voice was calm and honest. Even I can't say for sure. But if it's truly unbearable, there's a way to end it faster. His breath fell on the shell of her ear. It's just that this method requires your consent. You might regret it. Do you still want to continue? Tilda let out a muffled groan. Are you in heat? No priest would use desire to heal. Collies held her tighter. You say that, but your body is pressing so close. You already know the answer. Instead of struggling in pain, why not indulge in a moment of pleasure? Tilda turned her head, tears blurring her vision. But you're insane. He admitted it freely that you're not wrong. But she couldn't deny his words. Since birth, she had lived with a fever that never subsided. Every night, she sought solace buried in her mother's arms. After her mother's death, the thought that the familiar, intense pain would return was more terrifying than death itself. If this bit of shame was the price for freedom from pain, she had no strength left to refuse. The man who was touching her, he touched her with an unnecessary carefulness. Her consciousness sank into darkness and then slowly resurfaced. Light pierced her eyes. So bright. Is it morning already? Tilda slowly opened her eyes. A wave of warmth flowed through her heart. That's great. My vision has returned a little. The sound of rustling fabric. She snapped her eyes open. Oh no. Tilda slowly sat up, taking a deep breath. I should prepare myself first. She slowly turned her head. The man lying beside her must be. She softly uttered the name. Collis. The man slowly opened his eyes. Wait, what? Tilda jerked back, pulling the blanket up to her chest. Who in the world are you? The man looked bewildered. His face was clearly unchanged. But why was his hair black? And his eyes red? The man yawned. So grumpy this early in the morning? I was hoping for a sweet good morning greeting. Not that I expected one. Tilda's voice trembled. Answer me. Who are you? He looked directly at her. Don't you already know? He smirked, his fingers lightly tracing the scratch marks on his neck. You were clinging to me all night, calling my name. The places you scratched still hurt. Tilda's face instantly flushed red. He got out of bed. That what's so surprising? The black hair or the red eyes? He picked up his clothes from the floor. Yes, black hair and red eyes. Everyone knows what that means. He looked back at her, a hint of a smile in his eyes. You suspect I'm a Turin, don't you? In the Magori Empire, there are 3 kinds of people. Those born with sacred power, those without sacred power, and the Turin. The people abandoned by the one true god, Balania, an absolutely evil race. They're a corner of the world that uses cunning power to drag humans into desire and madness. Tilda's gaze turned icy. Now I understand. That strange power you injected into my body was the power of a Turin. But Kali's, he had passed the high priest trials more than once, proving his sanctity. Kali's watched her reaction, a smile playing on his lips. Ah, I see. The real Kali's couldn't possibly be a Turin, so I must be an imposter in disguise. He walked barefoot on the floor, his voice soft. Tilda Balania, you only know half the story. He slowly walked towards her. The power of the Turin is incomparable even to sacred power. It is a dangerous and terrifying, overwhelming power. Tilda's knuckles turned white from her tight grip. She clutched the candlestick by her hand. Deceiving the Pope's eyes and climbing to the position of high priest would be nothing to him. She suddenly raised the candlestick, aiming it at him. Don't come any closer. Kali stopped, his eyes filled with undisguised admiration. A good stance. Tilda's voice trembled with anger. You must have had another motive for saving me. If what you say is true, you should have let me die. The candlelight flickered. The Turin heretics have always been the target of joint purges by the papal court and the Balania family. He couldn't have saved me out of goodwill. What is his purpose? Kali's smile deepened. He asked bluntly, what do you want from me for saving you? All right, I'll be direct. He held up a finger, his movement elegant and certain. There is only one thing I want, for you to receive the divine oracle. Tilda froze on the spot. Kali's continued, I need you to meet the goddess Balania and ask her something for me. So you must summon her for me. He looked at her calmly, as if discussing the weather. You will summon the goddess for me. Tilda tightened her grip on the candlestick, a hint of mockery in her voice. The divine oracle doesn't just appear because you want it to. As the high priest, you should know that better than anyone. Kali's let out a soft laugh. Then what do you think I went through all the trouble of putting on that ridiculous priest's robe for? He suddenly struck out, easily snatching the weapon from her hand. What do you think a Turin would do? Isn't it obvious? He leaned in close, his presence enveloping her. Are you afraid I'll take over the holy temple or something? His smile held a trace of cruel malice. Don't be silly. If that were my goal, I would have twisted off that old pope's head and ground him into a pulp long ago. His words didn't sound like a bluff. Tilda subconsciously clutched her bedclothes. So, that dangerous power really entered my body? To survive, I accepted his power. But I have done something that defiles the name of Balania. How can I face the world from now on? His voice interrupted her thoughts. People always think like you. He turned his back to her. What would a Turin do? It's obvious. Bathe in blood, tear flesh from bone, sell their souls to the devil. Tilda retorted, and yet you turn a blind eye to the truth. Are you saying the Turin are innocently persecuted? She realized the weight of these words. Oh, you know what you're saying? This could shake the very foundations of the empire. It's not something to be said lightly. He walked to the window, his steps pausing for a moment. But hasn't it changed? Perhaps for you. He was bathed in the morning light, yet his figure seemed lonely. Then, my dear Saintess, do you know of the curses that have befallen the Turin? The special power we possess is called the first curse. It is also the reason we are erased from society the moment we stop moving. And the second curse remains unknown to this day. We have searched for a long time, but we haven't found a single clue. The goddess herself gave us a reason to be erased from history. And the third curse. Even if we survive the endless misunderstandings and calamities, we are destined to die young, because we bear the divine punishment of a short life. Tilda was stunned. A curse from the goddess. Kali stood with his back to her, his voice ethereal. The lifespan of a Turin is only half that of a human. This is a story that has never been told. He turned around, a bitter smile on his lips. This is precisely why I disguised myself, spending 1,000 years to become the high priest. To ask her myself from the closest possible place. He stepped barefoot onto the carpet. Ask her why she abandoned us, and why she cast such a curse. He sank wearily into a chair, but for over 10 years, the divine oracle has not descended even once. So cruel. I thought she would punish me for my disrespect, that I could at least get a single word in return. But in the end, there was nothing. His gaze fell on her back, and then I found a next method. You, Tilda Balania, the true heir to the papal court. Saving you last night was a coincidence. But thanks to you, I now have a good excuse to make a deal with you. Tilda stood by the window. You want me to receive the divine oracle. Is that what you mean? You shouldn't use saving my life to threaten me. He turned around, but you should know I don't have that kind of power. Are you saying your divine power went rampant and disappeared when you were young? Is that right? Don't worry. It's not your divine power I need, but your identity. You have the legitimacy to shake the priests of the Holy Temple, even the Pope himself. He pointed out mercilessly, although your current position is pathetic, we can build it up slowly. So I won't take no for an answer. Tilda was pressured by his aura. Wait. She held her forehead. Give me some time to think. This is all too sudden. Tilda's fingers pressed against her eyelids. How much of this is true? Can I really trust a Turret? More importantly, can I really handle something this big? I've barely survived, and already there's a huge mountain to climb. A voice whispered in her ear, don't you want revenge? Tilda turned her head. What? Kali smiled like a demon. Don't you want revenge on those who gouged out your eyes and threw you into the cold sea? If it were me, I'd be grinding my teeth in hatred. He sat in the chair, his posture relaxed. Go take revenge. I'll help you. He leaned forward. In return, you help me. Doesn't that make my proposal easier to accept? Tilda spun around. Stay out of my business. This isn't something you can just talk about casually. Kali's hand pressed on the table. How can I stay out of it? I'm already in too deep. And there's something I haven't told you. Your treatment isn't over. You could go blind again at any moment. Tilda's pupils contracted sharply. You didn't tell me. Kali's voice was calm. The poison you took was too strong. One treatment isn't enough to completely purify it. She finally understood his scheme. Yes. Oh, you saved me, just to use me to carry out your plan. And in such a shameless way. He walked slowly towards her. That was indeed the best method of treatment. But even after experiencing it yourself, you still don't believe me. What kind of scoundrel do you take me for? He stopped in front of her, but I can accept this level of complaint. I prefer spirited over submissive. Tilda roared, Kali's moin. He pulled her into his arms, their breaths mingling. Just like that, keep calling my name while you cling to me. He whispered, if you want to live, then use my body to your heart's content. First, start by getting used to my touch. Don't be afraid. You actually brought Tilda Balania here. Lazard's face turned pale. What on earth are you thinking? A Tauren disguised as the High Priest. Are you trying to get us all killed? Kali's walked past him nonchalantly. Stop nagging. I've spoken with her. It went well. Kali smiled confidently. Of course it went well. It's a miracle she didn't stab me. Lazard retorted in his mind. She almost did last time. Lazard's voice held a hint of helplessness. But she would have died if I didn't bring her back. You know we need her. She's like an express train to the goddess. Lazard asked, so, will she help us? Kali's paused for a moment. Maybe. Lazard jumped in frustration. Are you kidding me? Anyway, is there any new information? A newspaper was placed on the table. The morning paper is here. It's all news about her. The newspaper headline was shocking. Balania missing after divorce. Where did she go? As expected, her divorce and disappearance were reported at the same time. Kali's looked at the paper. Oh, the rumors are true. She really got a divorce. No wonder she took off her ring. Lazard interrupted his thoughts. Is this the time to be concerned about that? What's suspicious is that a large-scale missing person report was issued overnight. Kali's eyes darkened. It seems they're in a hurry. But she's never been very patient. A glare Belmont. He had said to Tilda, saving you was a coincidence. But if he hadn't been secretly watching her, the consequences would have been unthinkable. Kali's gave an order, continue to monitor her. In the greenhouse, a glare was humming a tune, trimming the plants before her. A pleasant smile hung on her face. The tune she hummed was light and cheerful, as if she were oblivious to everything. That child over there, the Pope's granddaughter. Is she the one who killed Lady Celestia? That witch. Yeah, I heard she's enrolling with us this time. But she can't even use her sacred power now. What's she doing at the academy? So shameless. A blue-haired boy looked at her. It's not like she did it on purpose. Everyone's gossiping too much. Tilda was expressionless, as if she hadn't heard the discussions. Amazing. To hear all that and not even flinch. The blue-haired boy thought, would she bleed if I poked her? I'm curious what kind of expression she'd make if I really did. Lazard's voice woke him from his sleep. Lord Kali's. Lord Kali's. Kali's rubbed his temples. That I must have fallen asleep. What was I doing? Lazard reminded him. You're on duty. Please concentrate. Kali's impatiently flipped through the documents. Oh, much work. When can I get off? Lazard pointed out mercilessly. It's only been an hour since we started. How much energy did you use last night? I know you're bound to be exhausted after saving someone, but still, I use a little too much. Lazard pressed on. How much is a little? Collies held up one hand, about 5 years' worth. Lazard stumbled back in shock. He cried out, "Are you insane? Is there something wrong with your head?" But Collies was calm. No need to get so worked up. Do you know what price Collies paid for this? Lazard thought to himself, saving a woman like that. Do you really not know the consequences? I shouldn't doubt him. But what if he finds out? That's why I was hesitating whether to tell him or not. He made up his mind that what's there to hesitate about? I'll go tell him now. That should be enough to make him. Lazard turned to leave. A voice stopped him. Stop. Collies' voice was cold. Do not go near her without my permission. Lazard turned back, confused. Why are you being so strict? Collies didn't look at him, that I won't say his second time. Then send the Edsel siblings. You should at least eat something. Collie said, those kids might work. He waved his hand. All right, do that. The door was knocked on gently. Tilda looked up. Who is it? A young girl walked in, her smile bright. It is an honor to meet you, Lady Tilda. My name is Stella Edsel. I am a maid in service to Lord Collies. She placed a tray on the table that I've brought some food. I was afraid you might be hungry. Tilda thought, what a child with clear eyes. A childish voice came from outside the door. I want to see the angel too. Komori, you have to wait outside. Stella turned back helplessly. A small boy peeked out from behind the door. Who is that? Stella explained. That's my younger brother. He insisted on following me. Tilda thought, such a young child is also in this mansion. Could it be? Collie shows his true form in front of them without a care. She looked at the girl before her. Are all the servants here from the Turin clan? Stella nodded hesitantly. It seems so. Oh my. Stella lifted the lid of the food cover. Would you like to eat something first? I don't know your tastes, so I brought some warm and soft food. Tilda looked at her. I understand. Leave the food and go. Stella shook her head. I can't do that. It's my duty to attend to you while you dine, so you don't feel uncomfortable. Tilda waved her hand. I in this mansion. I'm more comfortable being alone. Stella understood her meaning and bowed. Then I will go prepare your bath. Please call me when you have finished your meal. She left quickly, leaving a world of silence behind. Tilda watched her back. How pathetic. Why be so sharp with a child? If you spend your whole life seeing them as villains, perhaps I would temporarily let my guard down. If you spend your whole life seeing them as villains, perhaps I would temporarily let my guard down. And then, to survive, I receive an offer that I must trust them. How many people could remain calm? At least, I am not one of them. But on the other hand, I was almost killed by the benefactor I trusted my whole life. After hearing the truth, to still see them as villains, how foolish would I be? Collies' attitude makes things more complicated. Sometimes I wonder if I'm being deceived by his straightforward words. But then I remember the desperation he occasionally reveals. Thinking about it carefully, if everything he said is true, then his words and actions in saving me couldn't have been out of genuine concern for me. It was purely to use me. A wave of dizziness hit her. She pressed her forehead in pain. Damn it, it's happening again. A hand gently supported her wrist. Lady Tilda. Tilda asked warily, who's there? Stella's voice sounded. I'm sorry. Did I startle you? Tilda thought, is that Stella's voice? Stella explained, I heard you were out for a walk, so I followed. I was warned beforehand about Lady Tilda's condition. She supported Tilda. Let me escort you back to your room. It might be a little unpleasant, but please bear with it. Stella's concern was genuine. Just as I thought this morning, this child is also worried about my condition. Tilda said, it's not that I'm unhappy. It's just that I can't let my guard down yet. Stella's voice was hesitant. Lady Tilda, I don't know how to say this, but the Turin here are no different from ordinary people. Tilda looked at her, confused. What do you mean? Although legends say the Turin possess dangerous abilities, that seems to be a thing of the past. Nowadays, only a very small number of Turin actually have special powers. I've heard there are almost none as powerful as Lord Collies. Stella lowered her head, her voice full of sincerity. What I'm trying to say is, you don't have to be wary of us for your safety. I just hope you can feel at ease here. She wasn't hurt by my words. She's worried about me. A voice sounded in her ear. That's right. So relax. Stella exclaimed, Lord Collies, you're here. He pulled Tilda in his arms and said to Stella, scram, kid. The adults have business to discuss. Stella immediately bowed and retreated. Yes, Lord Collies. Collies looked down at her. Have you thought about my proposal all day? He chuckled softly. Skipping meals, shutting yourself in. No matter how I think about it, I can't find a reason for you to refuse. Tilda said coldly, so you admit to having me watched. He answered frankly, it was all out of concern. She broke free from his embrace. I won't be fooled by your words. He raised an eyebrow. Tilda met his gaze. I accept your proposal. After all, I owe you my life. I have an obligation to repay it. If there are truly beings who are oppressed contrary to the truth, then it is time to correct that. That is perhaps more important than my personal grudges or desire for revenge. You can use me to find a way to get the divine oracle, but you don't need to help me with my revenge. Her words were clear and firm that I will handle my own affairs myself. A flash of something suppressed crossed Kali's eyes. The setting sun dyed the sky red. A voice said, "Find a way to bring forth the divine oracle. But you don't have to meddle in my revenge." Tilda's gaze was firm. "I'll solve my own problems." The two walked side by side, their shadows stretched long by the twilight. Hearing this, Kali's let out a soft laugh that scattered in the wind. Kali's voice held a hint of confusion. "That you're going to deal with those people alone? In your current condition? How is that possible?" Kali stopped and looked down at the woman before him, saying, "Wouldn't that be the same as letting them go? Do you still have lingering feelings for your family?" Tilda thought, "I was trying to share your burden. Why must you get angry?" But more importantly, Tilda spoke out loud. "How did you know it was my family who did it?" Kali's pupil shrank slightly. He looked away and said, "That was just a slip of the tongue. The missing person posters went up overnight. Isn't it obvious?" Tilda turned around and said, "No. Thinking about it now, it's strange." A sliver of suspicion formed in her eyes. He pressed her. "How did you know I fell into the sea late at night? And how did you show up so punctually?" He calmly replied, "As the high priest, protecting this sea is my duty." Her voice trembled. "Could it be that from the very beginning, you were conspiring with Aglaia to plot against me?" His tone remained placid. "Are you overthinking things? It seems I must first dispel your suspicions." He leaned in without warning and silenced all her words with a kiss. Tilda forcefully pushed him away. Her cheeks flushed as she said, "What are you doing?" He took the opportunity to pull her into his embrace, his voice deep as he said, "A treatment." She struggled and said, "Don't think you can fool me this way again." He only tightened his arms gently and said, "Recall everything I've ever told you." Kali's gazed into her eyes and said, "I've simply bet everything on you." The curve of his lips held a hint of certainty. Any factors that could interfere with our plan, I naturally had to investigate thoroughly. Tilda lightly touched her lips with the back of her hand and asked, "How much did you find out?" Kali's voice was low and certain. "Just know that she is more vicious than you imagine. Like a maggot on a corpse, she will cling to her prey until the very last moment and enjoys every second of it." He gently took her hand and continued, "This is a problem we share." Tilda said, "So, are you asking to borrow my power?" He lowered his eyes and pressed a kiss to the back of her hand. "Even if you are unwilling now, you will eventually need me. Of this, I am certain." The indoor light was soft. Kali's picked up a nearby candlestick and said, "Do you understand now?" He looked at her with a hint of a smile in his eyes. "That IT seems much better than the first time. You're taking it well." Tilda turned away, covered her reddened cheeks with a handkerchief, and said, "As long as you stop saying such things." She turned back. Her gaze fell upon the candlestick. "What's the meaning of this candlestick?" He answered frankly, "Because you kept doubting me. This was the only way." Tilda furrowed her brow slightly this way. He watched her, listening to his next words. "T.O. swear an oath by the goddess's candlestick." Kali's raised the candlestick high, his expression solemn and grave. "That I saved you to save the people of Turing. I have done and will continue to do my best to heal you." Tilda stared at him quietly, listening to the final line of the oath. "I have never conspired with Aglaia, not for a single moment." The candlestick is a sacred object bestowed by the goddess upon mortals to bring forth fire. For a priest to swear an oath with it is to prove one's innocence before the primordial fire. To break the oath is to deceive the divine and incur divine punishment. Kali's couldn't possibly misunderstand the weight of these words. Why does he always present choices that are impossible to refuse? Was I always this vulnerable? Tilda asked, "When will this treatment finally be over?" The high priest said, "In another week, you will be much better." Tilda said, "Then we will make our move." Kali's repeated her words, "Make our move." Tilda said, "I'm going to the papal court. For the divine feather, I must be reinstated, and I must stop Aglaia." A knowing smile appeared on Kali's face. He said, "Now you're talking." His voice was full of approval. "This return will be a bolt from the blue for some people. Things are about to get very interesting. But with your current noble status, it will be difficult to contend with her." She asked, "Then what should I do?" His fingers tapped lightly on the rim of a cup. His voice grew heavy. "For revenge, you must fall with me. The Holy Grail sinks into endless darkness. falling together into the deepest gloom. In the end, I accepted Kali's proposal. All that remained was to wait for my body to recover. 1 week later, at the estate of Count Noxala, Windsor roared, and the cup in his hand shattered, the declaration of death. Who made that decision? He questioned the person before him. What did the Security Bureau say? The subordinate lowered his head and replied. The Security Bureau couldn't determine the lady's whereabouts. The Duke of Belmont also agreed to the death declaration. He erupted again. What right does that woman have to agree? I am her husband and family. The subordinate was speechless. They're already divorced. Why is he still spouting nonsense? He should have treated her better back then. A woman's voice came from the doorway. Windsor. Windsor turned to see Aglaia by the door. She walked in slowly, her red skirt swaying gracefully. A single greeting seemed out of place in the tense atmosphere. How have you been? Windsor was furious. Aglaia, how dare you announce Tilda's death on your own authority? She simply closed her eyes nonchalantly, as if brushing away a speck of dust. Aglaia's voice was calm and steady. The security team has searched everywhere, but found nothing. There was nothing more they could do. I had no choice. Windsor roared. They didn't even find a body. She's not the kind of woman to die without a trace. Aglaia gently placed a hand on his arm, her touch as gentle as a feather. Windsor, don't be like this. Let's sit and talk. She gazed at Windsor and said, if Tilda isn't dead, where could she have gone? Could the divorce have hit her that hard? Windsor said, a cold-blooded woman who wouldn't bleed even if you stabbed her. Would she hide away over a mere divorce? Windsor covered his face in anguish, overwhelmed by regret. Back then, if only I hadn't listened to you. Fragments of memory surfaced. Aglaia fanned herself, her eyes and brows full of charm. How long are you going to struggle? Will you keep staring at Tilda's back forever? Beneath that child's proud shell, there's actually nothing. She lost her family and grew up without love. Closing her fan, every word struck his heart. You just need to touch that fragile heart, push her to the brink, and make her crave your love. Her fingertip touched his chest, as if igniting a flame. She'll come back to you, afraid of being abandoned again. Windsor said, you say that as if you have some grand plan. She smiled as she revealed the plan. Pretend to divorce Tilda, then marry another woman. She made a promise in his arms. I will be your new partner. The memory faded. He muttered, I must have been insane to have foolishly believed every word you said. He buried his face in his hands. His broken voice came out muffled. If it weren't for you, Tilda wouldn't have disappeared. This is all your fault. You turned me into a murderer. Aglaia grabbed his hands, forcing him to meet her gaze. Windsor, look at me. Her voice was gentle yet icy. There's no need to grieve. Thanks to this, you've been given a chance for even greater gain. Windsor looked bewildered. What are you talking about now? Aglaia's hand covered his an opportunity has come. Windsor, a chance to possess the ducal title of Belmont. Something even Tilda couldn't hold on to. Windsor's breath caught for a moment. Start a family under these circumstances? Then a smile appeared on his lips. Aglaia's. It's not impossible. Aglaia held his hand. If you're worried about what others will think, I will ensure we are legitimate. Windsor looked up and said, you want me to trust you again? She took the opportunity to sit on his lap. Windsor, if you don't believe me, then believe in the Belmont name behind me. Windsor Noxala, you are the richest man in the Empire. With your excellent business acumen, you brought life back to frozen lands. In other words, a nouveau riche. Even if your wealth rivals in nations, the true nobles have never accepted you. I am well aware of your deep-seated inferiority complex. Can you, with that complex, really refuse the historic name of Belmont? Windsor held her. His voice held a trace of struggle. How can you be so calm? Your daughter just died. She just hummed that I never liked her anyway. Her words were like a cold snake. Windsor's body stiffened as he said, you truly are a heartless woman. Aglaia's voice sounded in his ear. Yes, grief for the dead is fleeting. Windsor, more importantly, imagine everything you're about to gain will change. The red heels clicked on the floor, making a crisp sound. She stood tall and proud, thinking, what a fool. Can't tell if it's naivety or stupidity. That face and that fortune, paired with such foolishness, it's almost cute. He truly is the most perfect husband for my plan. His breakdown was unexpected, as if he had truly loved Tilda with all his heart. Huh! A sarcastic smile touched her lips. Then she let out a light laugh. Huh! A man's voice came from behind her, Aglaia. She turned at the sound. The man came forward. That you've come at the right time. She asked directly, "Where's the body?" The man said, "Couldn't find it, Aglaia." Strange. She was getting impatient. The chance of survival is minuscule. If we keep digging and get discovered, it'll be trouble. The man nodded in agreement. Changing the subject, she asked, "Is the matter with the printing press handled?" The man answered affirmatively. "The papers will be on the streets in 2 hours." A brilliant smile bloomed on her face that I can't wait to see how people will enjoy this scandal. I'm ready. The newspaper headline was striking. Tilda Bolinia Belmont, dead. Body still not found. Tilda read the paper, looking at her own obituary. It felt more unsettling than she had imagined, as if reading a ghost story. A little boy came closer and asked, "Who died?" How pitiful. A girl quickly pulled him back, saying, "Combs, you can't speak like that at a tea party. Don't bother Lady Tilda. Come and sit down." Tilda showed a faint smile. There was a gentleness in that smile that even she herself could notice. The girl asked with concern, "Are you feeling better, Lady Tilda? You had a high fever for several days. We were all so worried." The boy added, "Please don't get sick again." Tilda said, "Yes, thanks to you all, I'm much better." The girl said, "Hee, that's a relief." A voice said, "You're actually spouting such sweet nothings now. You sound quite comfortable. If you want to stay forever, I wouldn't mind." That warmth vanished in an instant. Tilda said coldly, "Now I'm feeling unwell again." Kali said, "So cold. Why can't you look at me the way you look at the children? I'm the one who's been the most attentive here." Tilda lowered her eyes and said, "You don't seem to understand what affection is." Kali's chuckled lightly. Their conversation was surprisingly interesting. Tilda thought, "I just can't get used to his shameless attitude. How can he say such things so brazenly?" The girl pulled the boy away, saying, "We won't disturb you." He leaned in close again, using treatment as an excuse to do shameless things without hesitation. "Perhaps I'm gradually getting used to it." Tilda shivered, thinking, "What on earth am I thinking?" Kali straightened up, a satisfied smile on his face. He said, "I thought you'd be upset after reading the paper. It seems you're fine." He continued, "You've come at the right time. I have something to tell you." Tilda responded, "That's great. I heard you change the servant's hair and eye color. Do it for me too." He looked up, meeting her probing gaze. Kali's asked, "Planning to sneak off somewhere?" Tilda began, "Before we begin what we agreed upon, I want to visit my parents' graves. You can move freely for half a day now. No one will notice. It will be busy later." Kali said, "Just this once. Come back quickly. I don't want to delay my work chasing after you." Tilda nodded and said, "Don't worry. I won't run away irresponsibly." Kali's heard this and said, "Yes, that does sound like you." The carriage moved through the streets. She looked out the window. "I'm in such a mess, yet the world remains peaceful. If only I had been born ordinary like them." Don't waste time on meaningless hypotheticals. Stop thinking about it. The carriage suddenly stopped. The coachman's voice came, "My lady, the wheel is stuck. Please wait a moment." She thought, "Since we've stopped, I'll go check out that flower shop." She opened the carriage door. A newspaper fluttered down. She picked it up. "It's today's Stella. They didn't give it to me this morning." The headline caught her eye. "The truth revealed after death." It was a sensationalized story, pinning the crimes of the Duke of Belmont on her, painting a tragic romance concealed by corruption. The article claimed that Tilda, unable to bear her father's evil deeds and the affair between Aglaia and Windsor, requested a divorce and disappeared on her own. After that, she went missing on her own. After a week-long official search, she was declared dead. Tilda, why would they fabricate the story like this? Her hands began to tremble, gripping the newspaper tightly. "Aglaia, is this you again?" The name screamed in her heart. "Aglaia." She crumpled the newspaper fiercely, tears streaming down her face, which was filled with the pain and fury of betrayal. A gossip magazine revealed the past. The late Duke of Belmont had continuously abused his new wife, Aglaia. Windsor Noxala, meanwhile, secretly cared for her. Their relationship grew closer, and they even planned to elope. But they worried about the daughter left behind, alone in the declining Belmont family. In the end, they gave up their love for each other. Windsor Noxala turned to Tilda and proposed, choosing to take care of both women. When Tilda learned the truth, she demanded a divorce and then vanished. Tilda's face twisted in pain. "That don't make me laugh. That can't be true." She turned abruptly and gave an order, change destination, to a secluded chapel in the suburbs. The coachman replied respectfully, "Yes, my lady." Tilda stood before the portrait of the goddess, her figure lonely. Her high heels tapped lightly on the ground. She clasped her hands before her chest, her knuckles white. She knelt before the altar, praying to the goddess of Bolinia. I come today to confess my impure resolve. The goddess in the portrait declared solemnly, do not be bound by vengeance. The flickering candlelight illuminated the divine words. The cheap satisfaction of settling scores will only breed a greater emptiness. So, at the crossroads, I once suppressed myself. I was afraid to break the doctrine, to be consumed by hatred, because there were things more important than my petty revenge. But not anymore. I dare to defy the divine word and judge the sinners with my own hands. The abandoned husband, the man who swore an oath yet had an affair with another woman, the woman who kills without hesitation with her forked tongue, those who pushed a family into a sea of fire and stole innocent lives. I will drag these sinners to hell. Kali's voice echoed in her mind. For revenge, you too must fall with me. Fall into that endless darkness. Tilda ripped the necklace from her neck. Your believer hereby declares her fall. Please show no mercy. She cut her palm with a broken chain, and blood dripped down. To fall into the deepest abyss. The voice from the altar seemed to offer a blessing. May the sacred fire of the goddess be with you. The clock ticked, heralding a new day. The blue-haired assistant, moving through his notepad, reported to Kali's. This morning, you have a meeting with the commander of the Imperial Knights to discuss the CB subjugation. After that is lunch with His Majesty the Emperor. In the afternoon, you must supervise the novice priest's swordsmanship. He continued, the subjugation season is approaching, and we have many places to inspect. The port must also be checked as soon as possible. The blue-haired assistant paused and looked up at his pensive superior. Are you listening? Kali's didn't react, his gaze distant. Kali's was lost in thought. Just one day away, and so much has piled up. And she changed her schedule yesterday and went to the chapel. They said her expression wasn't good. I suppose it was because of that article. Kali's covered his face with his hand, thinking, if it weren't for that damned church visit, I could have checked on her immediately. What would her expression have been then? That woman, as cold as the winter wind. When the family she cherished became a laughingstock, what burned in her heart must have been more than just anger. The saint is consumed by rage and vengeance. How breathtakingly beautiful. A pity I couldn't witness it myself. If she knew that seeing the cracks in her facade is my pleasure, she would call me a pervert again. A smile touched Kali's lips as he said, I wonder what she's doing now. The blue-haired assistant watched in confusion as he stood up. Where are you going all of a sudden? Kali's replied flatly, home. The assistant hurried after him, saying, what? Don't you have a meeting with the Knight Commander? Kali said without turning back, postpone it. The assistant grew more anxious. What about the rest of your schedule? You have to lead the evening prayer. What about the sermon? Kali's figure disappeared behind the door, leaving only a single sentence. Tell them I'll inspect the port the day after tomorrow. The sermon is, may the grace of the goddess guide your soul to rest. The assistant fretted on the spot that you've used that sermon for 4 weeks straight. This won't do. He chased out the door, shouting, Lord Kali's. In the bright hall, Tilda's figure appeared. She looked at the newcomer, her eyes cold. Kali said, oh my, did you come out to welcome me, knowing I was returning? Tilda said, yes, I've been waiting. Kali's bowed slightly and said, I'm honored that you wanted to see me so much. Tilda said, you've seen the article, haven't you? So you should have guessed. Kali said, how direct. Tilda's tone was heavy. Aglaia and Windsor have joined forces to try and swallow the Belmont Duchy. I nearly lost my life because of it, and I've learned of even more terrible crimes. Her voice was firm. I will take back everything they stole from me. She turned to Kali's. You were right. I need your power. A glint of a smile appeared in Kali's eyes that I've been waiting for those words. So what do you need? Tilda said, without hesitation, information. I need information on the papal faction and the noble faction. To solidify and expand my influence in the Holy See, I need the support of the papal faction. And to counter Aglaia and the powerful noble faction, I also need the backing of the papal faction. If things go smoothly, your goal and mine can be achieved with one stone. He said with satisfaction, excellent. Let's go inside and talk it over. I'm all yours for the rest of the day. His hand gently rested on her shoulder. Tilda pushed his hand away, saying no. Kali's froze, confused, and oh. Tilda said, I have something else to do tonight. I have to meet someone. Outside, the sound of rain beat against the window panes. Elsewhere, Aglaia hummed a cheerful tune. She looked around the lavish room. Perfect. Tilda is gone. All the sympathy will be mine. A smile spread across her lips. Finally, everything is perfect, Aglaia. I've taken everything from that girl with my own hands. She burst into laughter. The laughter stopped abruptly. She looked around warily. There was no one. All the lights in the hallway were out. She softly called the servant's name. Brown? Anna. A cold voice sounded from behind her. Oh, you need my help? Aglaya's pupils constricted. That voice. A flash of lightning outside the window illuminated Tilda's expressionless face. It's me. Tilda Belinia Belmont. A piercing scream tore through the night sky. In the storm-battered castle, the scream echoed for a long time. Aglaya let out a shriek and fell to the floor. She shrieked in disbelief. Impossible. How could you? Tilda finished for her. You mean, how am I still alive? Aglaya nodded frantically. Yes, that's right. That was a poisonous herb. It's impossible for anyone to survive it. How could this be? And your eyes should be blind. Why are they perfectly fine? Tilda said, a lot has happened. I've answered your question. Now it's my turn. She picked up a cup of tea and said, tell me, is there poison in this tea? She poured the tea out. It drenched Aglaya's head. Aglaya cried out. What? She let out a scream as a burning pain spread across her skin. The stinging was excruciating. She screamed again. Aglaya knelt on the floor, clawing at her face in agony. Tilda looked down at her. Oh, you know what I'm grateful to you for? Before you try to kill me, you revealed the whole truth. My entire life had been crushed by guilt, thinking my ignorance had killed my mother. But you lifted that burden from me. The teacup slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. This means there's nothing left to hold me back. Aglaya lifted her stained face, a twisted smile on her lips. In the end, you're still the same foolish Tilda Belinia Belmont. Do you really think you can stand against me? Tilda turned away, her voice devoid of any warmth that you'll see. I'll show you just how I'll destroy you. Aglaya reached out, saying, stop. I'm not finished talking, Tilda. But the door had already slammed shut behind her. Only a scream echoed above the castle. Tilda. Kali stood in the rain, a hint of a smile under his cloak. You had me use my power to sneak you into the mansion. Did you perform some interesting little trick? Tilda pulled her hood lower to hide her pale face. Just a simple tea party. Kali's gazed at her and said, I see. He asked softly, shall we go back? Tilda said yes. The morning sun streamed into the study. Files were stacked neatly on the desk. Kali's didn't look up, his gaze fixed on the documents. I heard you didn't end up going to your parents' graves yesterday. You should at least go today. Tilda's voice was soft. I can't face them yet. Not until I've cleared their names and settled everything. At that, he put down the file and looked up at her. So you plan to monitor my afternoon reports until when? Kali's put down the file in his hand and met her gaze. Couldn't you replace the word monitor with protect? Tilda rubbed the corner of her. I would only call it a betrayal of trust. If you need my help, then please first show that you trust me. A slight smile played on Kali's lips. People's hearts are fickle. What if you have a change of heart midway? Tilda's gaze was firm. I'm not one to easily break my word. Kali stared at her and said, that much I know. He thought, a decision made by someone like you must have been carefully considered. Although I understand, I still feel a bit uneasy. Unless we seal it with a contract. Tilda pushed a stack of files forward, saying, I've reviewed all the documents you've collected. First, I need to identify those in the papal faction who are most hostile towards me. If I attend the council now, they will surely object. Kali's finger tapped on a sketch. Glenn Godot. He's the most likely one. As a high priest, his eyes still gleam with greed. And he has a close relationship with Aglaya. Tilda said, don't tell me you also had an innocent love affair with him. Kali's finger lightly touched her forehead, but a priest would lose their divine power if they lose their purity. He wouldn't take that risk. Tilda said, but you seem to be fine even after doing that sort of thing. Kali said, that's because I possess a power that transcends the divine. Tilda's breath caught. She thought, a power that can mimic the divine even when defying doctrine at the cost of shortening one's lifespan. How terrifying. The lifespan of the Turing people is already only half that of humans. 40 years at most. Kali's breath brushed past her ear that you're lost in thought. Or have you just started imagining doing inappropriate things with me? Tilda's cheeks flushed. What? She backed away. I understand now why you're always saying such frivolous things. But please remember, you are still a high priest. For now, restraining your desires is the safer choice. Kali's was stunned. He then chuckled lightly. What kind of misunderstanding is this? Do I really seem that promiscuous? Tilda said, I thought I wouldn't be your first. You seem too skilled at those things. Too familiar. And before, your eyes always held that kind of longing affection. His gaze became deep and gentle. Oh, that's how I look. Don't worry. You are my first, no matter what you think. He pulled her into his embrace. Tilda turned her face away and said, you're teasing me again. Kali's voice was gentle. Your vision starting to blur. He took her hand. Seems you've gotten more scars while I was away. He gazed in her eyes and said, do you need my help? Tilda pushed the files at him and said, I'm fine. You should organize these documents. Kali's chuckled. So you didn't fall for it. Anyway, about that guy named Godot. The wind from the balcony stirred the curtains. A wine bottle tipped over. Where is he? Aglaia stood by the window. Tilda is alive. She's not dead. She bit her nails. If the newspapers are quiet, it means she only revealed herself to me. What is she planning? She spun around. The articles I spread have already become established fact. At a time like this, Tilda wouldn't dare act rashly. Or would she? After dying once, her mind is no longer clear. If she storms into the Vatican in a rage and confronts Godot directly, luckily, the Pope is still abroad. I must stop this before things get worse. A man burst in, Aglaia. Windsor grabbed her shoulders forcefully. She's appeared. Tilda has appeared in the council hall. Windsor's pupils constricted in disbelief. A smile bloomed on his lips. She's alive. He gripped Aglaia's shoulders tightly, his eyes shining with a strange light. Tilda is alive. The magnificent Grand Temple stood before them. Kali's voice sounded. Are we finally going to the Grand Temple? Tilda's gaze went past the iron gates toward the distant temple. Yes. Last night, I declared war on Aglaia. Now it's time to announce to the world that I'm still alive. From now on, I will stay in the papal court and attend every meeting of the Grand Temple. By doing so, I will build my influence and win the support of the papal faction. Kali's looked at her profile. Public opinion is very unfavorable for you right now. Aren't you afraid of what's to come? Tilda's gaze did not waver in the slightest. I'm not afraid. She remembered her oath that I have made the worst possible vow to the goddess. There is no reason to hesitate anymore. But she looked back at the mansion behind her. I'm just a little reluctant to leave this place. In the time I was here, I slept in without a care and walked around looking disheveled. The Edsel children, I won't be able to see them for a while, will I? Kali's voice broke the silence. You're quiet again. Are you actually very nervous inside? Tilda didn't answer. I never thought there would come a day when I'd be reluctant to leave this house. Kali's voice held a smile. Don't be nervous. You have the most reliable ally in the world by your side. Tilda replied softly, say whatever you want. She turned to him and said, then let's go. Let's announce the magnificent return of the Saintess. The Grand Temple's council chamber. Whispers surged like a tide. A priest lowered his voice, his face full of disbelief that you're saying Tilda Belinia is alive. Another priest said urgently, I'm telling you, she's right here in the Grand Temple. A priest saw her walk in through the main gate with his own eyes. A third priest shook his head. How can a dead person come back to life? But that's not the point. You all know about the rumors, right? A lavishly dressed priest snorted. After a scandal like that, she can't go back to the Belmont family. Of course, she can only come to a place where she has connections. Don't tell me she's planning to claim her inheritance rights. The crowd murmured, she's lost everything. Aiming for the papal throne is logical, especially while the Pope is away. But what can she do without divine power? A hand slammed on the table, making a dull thud. That must not happen. High Priest Glenn Godot. Glenn Godot's voice was icied, if the rumors are true. Acknowledging Tilda Belinia as the heir to the papacy is a betrayal of our faith in the goddess. Such a thing will not be permitted. Glenn Godot's eyes were dark. Tilda Belinia Belmont. I thought that nuisance had disappeared, but she's back. Aglaia's eyes glinted with calculation. Please place Tilda Belinia under house arrest within the Grand Temple. He retorted, and what do I get in return? Aglaia's red lips curved. That I promise you a fortune you won't regret, even after retirement. Glenn Godot's thoughts drifted to the past. I went to great lengths, tormenting her secretly through my dealings with Aglaia, and now she dares to appear before me like this again. It seems I must meet with that woman once more. The heavy doors slowly opened. The announcement rang out. Her Holiness, the Saintess Tilda Belinia Belmont has arrived. The great doors slowly swung open, and light flooded in. Tilda's voice was cool. That has been a long time, everyone. I trust you've all been well. The noisy hall fell silent in an instant. The priests looked at each other, whispering, Lady Tilda, she's really alive. Tilda's gaze swept over the crowd. You all look as if you've seen a ghost. Did that many of you really believe the absurd rumor that I was dead? Or are you perhaps unhappy to see my return? A priest hastily stood up. Of course not. It's just that you appeared so suddenly in the council chamber. We were just surprised. Kali's leaned back in his chair, a playful look in his eyes. He thought, they can't even maintain their composure. The way they're looking at each other for cues is quite amusing, and I have a pretty good idea of what that old fox is plotting. So far, things are unfolding in an interesting way. Moreover, his gaze fell upon her. Although I had an inkling when she asked to wear the formal robes, seeing her in them with my own eyes, she's truly radiant. As if declaring that even on the edge of a cliff, a saintess is still a saintess. Tilda broke the silence. How long are you going to stand there, dumbfounded? Let's begin the council. Glenn Godot's voice rang out. I agree. But as you can see, there are no empty seats. Had you informed us of your attendance beforehand, we would have prepared a place for you. Tilda's gaze was sharp. According to the rules, a seat should be reserved for me, even if I am absent, should it not? Besides, with His Holiness the Pope currently away, as his heir, I hold the highest authority here. I'm sure you're all well aware of that. Tilda's gaze fell on Glenn Godot. In that case, please give up your seat. Glenn Godot's glasses slipped. He looked at her in disbelief. As you wish. The person who always avoided the council out of fear of the Pope now dares to call herself the heir. How laughable. I like to see what tricks you plan to pull, you who have neither divine power nor political strength. Glenn Godot stood up, and the others followed suit. But he was too late. Tilda took her seat, looked around at everyone, and said, "Let's begin today's meeting. What is today's agenda?" A priest answered, "We were about to discuss the negotiations regarding the priests kidnapped by pirates." Tilda said, "Are they the team of priests dispatched to rescue the shipwrecked crew?" Glenn Godot's voice rang out. "The pirates are holding them hostage and demanding we hand over Danvers Island." He thought, she already knows everything that happened during her absence. Tilda's eyes flickered. Danvers Island. It's a small but rich island. The salt pan business brings in a considerable income. Glenn Godot said, "If we yield, not only will the residents lose their homes, but we will also lose the salt pans. It is indeed a serious predicament." Tilda clasped her hands. "How many priests are being held hostage?" "2." Tilda continued. "Reason tells us to refuse their demands for the sake of the majority. But to abandon those who went to help others is a contradiction in itself. This is indeed a difficult problem." Glenn Godot said, "If a decision cannot be made, why not follow the doctrine? The doctrine is the word of the goddess, given to help us overcome difficulties. If we follow her words and choose the greater value, then no one can criticize the judgment of the Grand Temple." Tilda asked, "Which doctrine are you quoting?" Glenn Godot replied, "The Bolinian Canon, chapter 202, verse 21. The value of the few is no less than the value of the many. But if the world abandons the many for the few, to act to prevent a greater loss is considered the righteous path. Thus says the goddess." The priests whispered among themselves. Glenn Godot thought, the Bolinian canon is vast and profound. Even priests find it difficult to recite. Glenn Godot sneered inwardly, least among those present. No one but me can recite it in its entirety. The meetings of the Grand Temple always end up favoring the one more familiar with the doctrine. In other words, I have already seized control of this council. He looked at her. How pathetic, clinging to the papal seat, yet unable to solve a single problem. He said aloud, "Therefore, let this matter be resolved according to my judgment. Abandon the hostages." Tilda's voice rang out. "You have misunderstood the goddess's words. Chapter 202, verse 21 does not end there, does it?" Glenn Godot's expression froze. "What do you mean?" Tilda said slowly, "To prevent the loss of the many at the cost of the few is considered the righteous path. But the few who are abandoned for this reason must never be human lives. That is the part you have overlooked. What do you say to that?" Glenn Godot slammed the table and stood up. "Nonsense. There is no such supplementary scripture. I know the canon better than anyone." Tilda's gaze was sharp. "Then why don't we bring out the canon and confirm it for ourselves? Let's see who has truly engraved the doctrine into their very bones." Glenn Godot laughed. Be my guest. Bring it on." Tilda's voice echoed through the hall. "Very well. In that case, bring the draw to canon." Glenn Godot's composure shattered in an instant. He asked in a panic, "Wait, what?" "The draw to canon." He thought, that vast scripture is difficult for even priests to read through, and she claims to have memorized it all. The old bishop's pupils contracted. Impossible. This is just a bluff. A young priest hurried over, holding a heavy tome in both hands. He presented it respectfully. "My Lord Bishop, the scripture is here." Glenn Godot snatched the book, his voice hoarse with urgency. "Give it to me, quickly." Tilda's voice rang out steadily. "On page 312, verse 28, you'll find the same passage." Glenn Godot's fingers flipped frantically through the pages. The paper rustling. Have memorized all this is simply absurd. His gaze froze on the page. The words were exactly the same, without a single error. Collies began to read, his voice clear and solemn. "If for the sake of the few, the many are forsaken, it is the righteous path to prevent a greater loss. However, the few who are abandoned should not be the lives of others." Collies watched her, a hint of admiration in his eyes. To T.O. recite it word for word is truly astonishing. Their eyes met, a silent understanding flowing between them. Glenn Godot closed the scripture. He bowed slightly, a silent collapse of authority. Given the urgency of the situation, I will not pursue your impertinence. Tilda calmly accepted the apology. It was my mistake. I will keep it in mind. Tilda returned to the main seat. Her voice announced the resolution that we will see Danvers Island in exchange for the hostages. Afterward, we will reinforce the southern defenses and prepare a punitive force to retake the island at the opportune moment. To ensure the safety of our people, we must coordinate with the royal family. Go and convey the will of the Grand Temple. The follow-up meeting will be held as soon as possible. If there are no objections, this matter is settled. The chamber fell silent, stunned by the next minister's shock. T.O. not only memorize, but fully comprehend that obscure scripture. The hands of the ancient clock moved in the silence. Tick-tock, a new chapter of an era had begun. In a corner of the hall, two priests spoke in low voices that T.O. be able to memorize and understand that obscure scripture. She is truly the Pope's granddaughter. They exchanged looks of amazement. I heard she was never first in her class at the seminary, but I didn't expect this level of skill. Why has she been so quiet until now? One of them smiled slightly. In any case, Lord Godot won't be able to hold his head high for a while. To be honest, it's quite satisfying. In an unseen corner, Bishop Godot's fists clenched, turning white. The humiliation in his eyes foretold an unavoidable storm. Tilda turned, and a voice stopped her. Miss Tilda. The speaker was a young male priest. He was smiling. Tilda said, Rosport. Rosport was puzzled. High Priestess, you know me? Might I have a moment of your time? Tilda's gaze was sharp point one of the three high priests. Of course I know you, she thought. According to Collies' intelligence, he is nonpartisan and neutral. This is an opportunity for an alliance. The two stood on a sun-drenched balcony, a gentle breeze blowing past. Tilda spoke first. Is there something you need? Rosport held up his scripture that I am also studying the Draughta Canon. I didn't expect you to have already finished it. I was wondering if I could ask for your guidance. Tilda's reply was like a maxim that I have nothing to teach. One can only begin to learn after recognizing one's own ignorance. A long-buried memory surfaced. After her mother's death, she had craved knowledge with an appetite that could devour the world. Now, reciting complex scriptures was as natural as breathing. Her gaze returned to the present, holding the power of change. From now on, the seminary must emphasize the Draughta Canon. The currently circulated texts are merely excerpts. This is why the Godot faction misinterprets the doctrine. Rosport said softly, you are more cheerful than I imagined. If we were to force the seminarians to study the original text, I'm afraid half of them would drop out. Tilda said calmly, you're right. Rosport's expression became eager. Then will you be attending the weekly meetings from now on? As I said, I want to ensure you receive the status you deserve. A hint of approval passed through Tilda's eyes. Very well. She thought, this man is more reasonable than I expected. He might become a key piece. Rosport was about to speak. Yes, and also, his words were cut off by a voice. Collies had appeared behind him at some point. Lord Collies. Collies' voice held a hint of mockery. Instead of loitering here, shouldn't you be comforting Lord Godot? His shoulders are shaking quite a bit. He looks very upset. The young priest beside them looked troubled. T.O. say such things in front of Miss Tilda. Tilda waved her hand. It's fine. Let's continue. Rosport bowed slightly. Then, I shall take my leave. I will pay my respects to you again next time. He turned and left. Tilda said, honestly, of the three high priests, it seems there's finally one decent person. Collies walked to Tilda's side. His voice lowered slightly. Miss Tilda, I have another matter to discuss with you. Could we speak in private? A wave of disgust rose in Tilda's heart, putting on such a polite act. How hypocritical, Collies. Collies' lips curved into a smirk. Your retreat only excites me more. Tilda said in a low voice, please watch your words. Collies turned to lead the way. The small chapel should be empty at this hour. Tilda followed coldly. As you wish. The chapel was empty. Sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, casting mottled shadows. Tilda's voice broke the silence. Good, there's no one here. Say what you have to say, quickly. Collies didn't answer. He walked to a large curtain. Come here. He abruptly pulled back the curtain, pulling Tilda with him into the shadows behind it. Tilda gasped in a low voice. What are you doing? Hiding like this is even more suspicious. Kali's breath brushed against her hair. That aren't secrets more interesting? Tilda said in a low voice. Shut up. He chuckled softly to don't be angry. I just wanted to celebrate today's victory. Tilda pushed him away. It's too early to celebrate. Move. Kali said, why not? You humiliated that bunch of fools in the council chamber. Even Roseport was following you around like a puppy. Tilda's anger finally erupted. Kali's moan. You either help me or get out of my way. This half-hearted attitude is useless. He said, then how should I help you? Godot will surely obstruct you at every turn. Should I strike first and present his head to you? Tilda said, that's not what I meant. Why are you being so sarcastic? Collies took a step back. All right, don't look at me like that. I was joking. I called you here to discuss next week's temple event. Tilda was confused. Temple event? Collies explained, the feast day is coming up. Tilda realized, I was so busy I forgot. Collies said, I knew it. Most of the nobility will be in attendance. Aglaya and Noxila will be there too. They won't just sit back and do nothing. We can't let our guard down. I'll let you know once the guest list is narrowed down. Tilda said, good. I'm counting on you. Collie said, and one more thing. He watched her, his gaze deep. You're dazzling today, but don't shine too brightly. Tilda's cheeks flushed slightly. Why are you suddenly saying that? She turned away. If there's nothing else, I'll be going. Her footsteps faded away. Collies watched quietly until her figure disappeared down the long corridor. He looked at the empty hallway, then turned his head and said, is she sulking? Perhaps. The words of others echoed in his mind. As expected of His Holiness, the Pope's granddaughter. I really didn't expect it to be to this extent. Miss Tilda, you're more cheerful than I imagined. He stroked his chin. It's inevitable that she attracts people's attention, but for some reason, it makes me uneasy. His gaze became complicated. I can't even understand Tilda myself.